Hello, everyone. My name is Yohei Kataoka, and I am the CEO of Crispies and also serve as the director for our games. I'm excited to be here at GDC this year and beyond honored to be invited as a speaker. The theme of today's presentation is Tokyo Jungle and Japan's gaming potential. It's not every day that you hear of a brand new development studio with absolutely no game development experience securing a first-party PlayStation 3 project. So I'd like to share with you how it all happened, as well as my view on the potential of Japanese games. To start off, a quick introduction of our company. I founded Crispies in 2007. Soon after, we signed a deal with Sony Computer Entertainment and developed a game called My Stylist. I'll go into the details later on, but this was a become your own stylist type game targeting the female audience where you would have fun playing around with your wardrobe. And after this project, we developed Tokyo Jungle, a survival action game. This game takes place in a deserted, futuristic Tokyo where mankind has disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The player will select an animal from over 50 different kinds available in the game and see who survives the longest in the vicious jungle. There are two modes in the game. In story mode, players will discover the truth behind humankind's disappearance. And in survival mode, the goal is to survive against other animals for as long as possible. Through online leaderboards, players are able to compare their survival skills against other players around the world. The game launched in Japan and Asia as a box product in June of 2012 and was made available for digital download via PSN in North America and Europe. Thanks to the fans and everyone's support, the title has performed very well, especially given the size of the budget of this game. Let's get into the main subject of today's presentation. I'm sure everyone here would like to know how and why this game even came to be, and how this was made available as a first-party title. For both Japanese and overseas media interviews, that's one of the first questions everyone asks. So I'm ready to answer that question today, from how it all happened, how it became a first-party title, and also my perspective on the potential of Japanese games. As I mentioned a minute ago, I founded the company Crispies in 2007. I was only 21 and an art school student. I just wasn't having enough fun at school, I guess. So I dropped out and invited my friends from school to form a company. Before I started the company, I was freelancing and earned some income on the side as a designer, designing websites while going to school. However, as I put in the hours every day, I found myself being less interested in designing what was ordered by the ad agency or a client or a company. It no longer appealed to me. That's when I had this great idea. I want to make games. I've always loved games since I was a young child. I continue to freelance and take my classes, but on the side, I gather some of my friends and people I met online and started making a game. The game we were making at that time was an RPG called Meteor. A meteor is about to crash on the planet where the main character lives. And in 10 days, when it falls, the planet will be destroyed and all lives will be gone. The crash is unavoidable, and the game would follow the last days of these people's lives. So this was back in 2005. Back then, there were no smartphones and platforms where you could showcase or sell your PC games as we do today. It was a different time. Although we financially backed the project ourselves, the reality was that there wasn't a place where you could easily present or showcase your products. Additionally, the demand for PC games in Japan was so low that there weren't many people who would check out the game or would pay for such a game. So if I wanted to make games as a career and not a hobby, I had two options. And the two options were either I go find a job at a game company or to start my own company. Knowing my personality and how uninterested and reluctant I was becoming with just my freelance designing jobs, I had a feeling working for a company just wasn't for me. I only wanted to create what I wanted from the bottom of my heart. So I decided to start my own company. However, I didn't have any clients to go to or anyone to rely on. Financially, I didn't have any support. So I was juggling my freelance projects and trying to set up a company. That's when I came across a poster for PlayStation Camp, sponsored by Sony Computer Entertainment in Japan. And CAMP is short for Creator Audition Mashup Project. This is the poster for PlayStation Camp. It shows a guy dressed up like Elvis Presley, or at least maybe it's a Japanese Elvis. I don't know. But it said, PlayStation yourself, wanted, talent, skills, idea. Submit awesome ideas, and we will provide financial and development support. I wasn't so sure about this guy in the poster, what he had to do with the campaign and the image I was trying to sell, but I immediately thought this was my chance, an opportunity to kickstart the company. So along with my friends who made media, we decided to come up with a game concept to submit to PlayStation Camp. We set up our studio here, literally a studio, a small studio in an apartment building. For a studio the size of 6 tatami mats, which is equivalent to approximately 10 square meters or under 110 square feet in Tokyo, the rent was pretty cheap at 38,000 yen or about $400. The next door building blocked any sunlight from getting into our room. It was nowhere near ideal, but this is where the 5 of us met every day and eventually came up with 3 different concepts. This was before the PlayStation 3 came out, so we came up with 3 ideas, one for each system. The 2 current gen systems at that time for PlayStation 2, PSP, and the next gen PS3. For PlayStation 3, the concept was based on the notion that the hardware was going to be network ready, that you were always going to be online. So once you logged in or signed in, you would roam around space, basically the world that PlayStation 3 provided for the players. It was a game that centered around you collecting life logs or pieces of information or records about other people's activities on the web, or leaving footprints on their boards or leaving messages for friends while you drifted in space. It was like a hybrid between a social networking service and a game. The more information or life records you collected, the more your spaceship developed, and you would be able to travel to faraway planets. In today's environment, it would be categorized as a social game, but it was probably too early for the times. Either I find a job at a game company or to start my own. For PlayStation 2, we came up with the 3D action game where you'd play the god of rain and bring life and greenery back to the dry, deteriorated land. For the PSP, we presented Medio, the 2D RPG we were already developing at that time. So we had 3 types of games: social, RPG, and an action game. Each of these concepts were developed with a platform in mind, all with a different art style and game system. The reason why we went in this direction is because we wanted to leave a strong impression that our team is not limited or restricted to one style of game or visual style, but we are capable of developing a variety of worlds and settings for our games. And in closing for the presentation, I included a photo of our team, just being silly, and sent it off to SCE. The producer of PlayStation Camp later told me that it wasn't just the concepts, but also the group shot this photo that made them want to meet with us right away. So in the end, both our concepts and our silly group photo made things happen. SCE was going to fund our development project. This is how Crispy's officially kicked off as a game development studio. After launching the company, we developed a game called My Stylist, as I mentioned earlier. Our background and experience in web designs helped prove our strengths and skills in this game. The concept behind this game was to create your digital wardrobe, specifically targeting the female audience, but using a PSP camera. You take your photos of your clothing items and become your own stylist. It's like a wardrobe version of iTunes. For any fashionista, this was a tool that came with several convenient features, like being able to view the silhouette of your clothes and colors at one glance, or coming up with a daily wardrobe idea that fit your schedule, or being able to simulate what the entire outfit would look like using the clothes you're thinking of buying, and so forth. Today, there are many smartphone apps that offer the same thing, but back in 2008, this wasn't anything common. I'm sure many ventures started by students go down the same path, but after we completed My Stylist, we butted heads and our company of 7 shrank down to just 2. We split. My partner and I decided to make a game by ourselves, and we needed to convince SCE it was possible. And so we single-mindedly drafted concepts to present to them, one after another, after another. I'm going to show you a few of those today. The first one is called Planet and Baby. Your objective in this game is to raise and nurture this mega baby who just all of a sudden appeared on this planet into an adult. The baby will eat his way through dinosaurs, mountains, and vast continents, and it must solve the various problems occurring on this planet to become a fully grown adult. The next game is called High Speed Hikyaku. The setting is in the Edo period in Japan, and hikyaku were couriers or messengers active in that era. You control a hikyaku, and your goal was to deliver the packages as quickly as possible to your client. And the third one, this one is called World of Colors, and a game where you travel solo. The game's story follows a traveler who lands on an undiscovered planet and constructs the map of the planet. I'm a fan of Snufkin from the Moomin series, so I was inspired by that lonesome traveler character. So we ended up with a bunch of game concepts, but we thought all of them were great, but we decided to focus on this game featuring a lonely traveler. With this concept, we also thought about an open-world 2D side-scrolling action game. Unlike the typical side-scroller, you wouldn't clear stages one at a time. You, as the traveler, with a mission to uncover this planet, would explore the sky, the land, and sometimes even dig underground and go in hiding for a while. As you uncover the truth, a map of the planet starts to come together. However, this idea was rejected by SCE. The reason was that it lacked the logic of fun as a game, and the system needed more work. So I decided to work on a new game concept, but carried over the element of venturing a world without a stage clearing from this game. I needed a new setting for this concept. When thinking of this, I was most conscious about the coexistence of universality and originality. I'm going to go off topic for a little bit here, but I can never forget the excitement I felt every time I bought a new game when I was a child. That's what made me pursue game development. In kindergarten, it was the NES and Game Boy. In elementary school, it was the SNES and PlayStation. And in junior high, the PS2. I spent my entire childhood playing with new systems. Every time I came across a new game or saw innovation and advancement in technology, it was as though my life had transformed. It was that shocking, and at that time, I felt very fortunate. The excitement and sense of fulfillment I felt then acts as a benchmark today when I'm creating something. I hope that I can also inspire others and create games that enrich our lives. That's why I will not make games that are similar to others out on the market or your average been there, done that game. Trying to make a game that's just new isn't that difficult. However, at times, that does end up becoming all about the creator's ego. We know consumers have become smarter today and won't pick up something just because it's new. Going back to the main topic, after thinking hard about what kind of game I should make, I came up with this approach. It was to combine or to multiply two different elements of universality that resulted in a unique but universal idea. If I take Tokyo Jungle as an example, obviously animals need no explaining, so we use that as our character and then multiply that with a ghost town, a very common typical setting that we're used to seeing in sci-fi stories and film. With these two elements coming together, we solidified our framework as a game with universality and originality. Even though this was a new IP on a very small scale budget, because we decided to focus and really hone in on this concept, we were able to secure the support from First Party as a PlayStation 3 project. Now that we set animals as our main characters, the logic of fun in the game that was missing in the previously submitted game concept was starting to come together. These animals live in a jungle. In this environment, you have to actively prey on other animals, otherwise you will die. To avoid death, you have to find your prey or search for plants and vegetation. It's a very simple mechanic. But I knew I could develop a game system where that is pretty much all you do, while at the same time allowing you to explore the world with no stage clear setting. This is how I came up with the world setting and system for the game. And when they came together and connected in my head, the title of the game came naturally. And there it was, Tokyo Jungle. And now we could finally draft a design document. But before that happened, we actually created a mock advertisement to get our energy going and to give ourselves a boost. In this ad, you'll see the PlayStation icon, the PS3 logo, and the words out, March 28, 2010. But that's all fake. I came up with this as I envisioned a large ad unit inside a train station. From the moment we came up with this concept, the world and setting you see here, and including the logo, that didn't change in the final product. Looking back, putting together a target visual and image of what the final would look like at the very beginning of development was a great exercise to keep the motivation going for our team. Even before the game was completed, we created this mock soundtrack cover design. This is still one of my favorite artwork. It's actually a photograph by famed Japanese photographer Masatoshi Nakano. His book, titled Tokyo Nobody, features a collection of empty or ghost town Tokyo. Once we decided on the setting for Tokyo Jungle and we were looking for reference materials, I came across this book by chance at a bookstore. And I was very impressed with the photographs and immediately started drawing animals into the scene. The image for the game was starting to come together. This piece is used with permission and courtesy of Mr. Nakano. This helped our team get into the groove of things, and we jumped right into the design document. We probably went a little bit overboard, though, as the document came out to over 100 pages. Nervously, I presented the document to the producer, and as soon as I showed the title name, bam, it was approved. It's strange how these things work out, but sometimes exciting ideas are communicated more effectively through the title name or key message when it successfully embodies the concept of the game rather than a thick design document. And I don't believe that's a hidden talent that producer had. It's the same with the consumers as they become more selective with their choices. Once we got the green light, Tokyo Jungle was in production. As you know, this is a brand new title, and when you work on a new title like this one, there aren't many games that you can reference or compare to demonstrate the gameplay experience. In these instances, every single person's understanding of the fun factor and appeal is different because you're unable to have that shared experience. So, in order for a future development team staff and the internal members at SCE to have this unified vision of the game, we decided to create a video. The goal was to demonstrate the different play styles and experiences of carnivores and herbivores. So let's take a look.
Tokyo. All humans have perished. With only its landscape remaining, the city has degenerated into a jungle with wild animals furiously fighting for survival. This is a survival 2D action game where players, by controlling wildlife, seek survival in this transformed city. Tokyo Jungle. First, let's decide on the animal you would like to control. Once you have made your choice, the game shall start somewhere in vast Tokyo. The animals will die from excessive hunger or fatigue. The survival rate displayed in the top right is the value indicating this level. Preying on other animals is the only way to restore your survival rate. Use the radar to capture your prey. Now let the game begin. You sense an animal approaching towards you. Lie in ambush using the landscape. It's an herbivore. Wait for the right moment to go in for the kill. Now, the survival rate is recovering. Now you sense an animal approaching from behind. The carnivore has detected your scent. Use the prey as a decoy and hide. Like this, the objects in the field can be used to hide. However, praying also numbs your senses. A dinosaur has come. You're under attack. What a shame. Now you're dead. Game over. Your survival span was for 5 years. After each play, the result is uploaded to the leaderboard. Marking a higher rank on the board is your ultimate objective. Choose the next animal you would like to control. This time, you're a gazelle. Herbivores restore their survival rate by eating plants. Survive by eating plants and avoid contact with carnivores. The herbivore's radar shows where you can find edible plants. Herbivores are able to herd, find identical species to yours and form a coalition. A baby dinosaur has suddenly attacked you. Watch out for sly enemies like these. You are finally able to form a herd. Other members will follow you around and serve as stock players. Oh no, you have been hunted now. But no worries, you can continue to play as another member. Now split up the group to escape from the hunters. You can sacrifice other members on your escape. They are still after you. Hide and ward off your predators. Lead your group well and try to survive as long as you can.
So as you saw, in the video, the animation for the animals is keyframed. We didn't know how to work with 3D models and animation. The environment is done in After Effects. In the end, this video served an important role for everyone involved at SCE, including management, production, audio team, and sales and marketing teams, as well as our own development team, as we shared a single vision for Tokyo Jungle. Finally, everyone was on board. So great. We all know what we're making. And here's where it all happened. Our studio was situated in a normal residence. And why is that, you may ask? Well, simply said, we as a company and the project itself couldn't afford to rent a studio or a facility in a building. This place is 95 square meters, or just over 1,000 square feet. First, there were only 2. Then it grew to 10. And during the last 4 months, we had 26 people finishing up the game. As you can imagine, it was pretty tight, no room for stretching and playing around. The good thing was that the team building came naturally in this small space, and we all worked well together. So I want to quickly share a few things that our team learned and experienced. Specifically, the advantages of not knowing what standards there are in game development due to no previous development experience, and the disadvantages of not having any prior development experience. I'll start off with the advantages or benefits due to not knowing what the standards are and things that were common sense in development. The great thing is that we were able to approach the game we wanted to make in its very pure, untouched form. For example, one of the things is having over 50 playable characters in an action game. Anyone who's ever worked on an action game would never do that. For each character, the parameters are different. From movement in combat, to area of effect, to jump range, and so on. It all changes depending on if you're talking about a baby chick or an elephant. They vary in size, so everything has to be scaled. To balance the stages so that it worked regardless of the animal type was not only inefficient, but also unrealistic. However, because of the lack of development experience, we were able to work on elements we believed our users would like to have. I feel that sometimes you tend to forget what the users are most interested in when you actually have the experience. Ask yourself, who am I making this for? If it's something you believe will excite the users, I recommend you at least consider the challenge. We were also very cautious about specific elements we believe would attract our users, help pull them into our game. For example, we chose the Pomeranian as one of our characters. The theory in action games is everything builds up over some time and goes into full gear when you're at your strongest. That's when excitement is at its peak. When the player reaches a point where he or she is controlling the character at its strongest level, tensions run high. The combat, the action, and everything happening on screen is so cool and you're fully immersed in the game. Initially, our producer told us to follow the series for Tokyo Jungle, but I intentionally decided to go with the Pomeranian, the weakest character, as the first animal to be shown. The reason behind this decision was by using a pet character who is naturally seen with their owners, we were able to effectively communicate the world, Tokyo, where humans were extinct. As a result, I believe we were able to attract more users by positioning the Pomeranian as the main character. In addition, we included a robotic dog towards the end of the story and also featured a mating system. These are ideas we believe would appeal to users and implemented in the early stages of development. So the disadvantages of not having any prior game development experience, for example, going from 2D to 3D. As you saw in the concept video earlier, we were developing the game as a 2D side-scrolling action game. However, repeatedly playing stages with a similar feel while hunting and chasing down other animals had its limits, and we weren't able to show the variety or different ways of hunting while at the same time keeping it fresh. The decision was made to go to 3D, and as a result, we spent a lot of time generating resources and adjusting the game system. Additionally, we were building our own development environment, and our lack of experience ended up triggering some unforeseen work. Our studio was housed in a normal residence, meaning the electrical power isn't the same as what a commercial building has. During the hot summer period when we had our development units running, the electricity supply wasn't enough, and we'd always blow the circuit breaker. In the end, after discussing it over with the electrical company, we had some construction work done in order to have power running at the level of a commercial property, and it ended up costing us enough to where we could have rented a studio or a building. Additionally, we were adjusting and iterating the engine and tools on an as-needed basis. So as a result of that, the tools aren't as flexible and has its own set of challenges. If we had more experience, I know Tokyo Jungle would have turned out to be a more refined and polished game. We faced a lot of challenges because of our inexperience, but somehow got to the finish line. The release date was set, we were in our testing and debugging phase, and we started to work on some promotional and advertising designs. When launching a new title or IP, we all know that it comes down to how you can stand out in the crowd. For Tokyo Jungle, we designed all of our marketing and promotional materials, from trailers to posters and print ads and media kits and packaging design. Normally, these things would be assigned to creative agencies, but these pieces are the first things that connect our product with the consumers, and I strongly believe that the ones who made the actual product can best communicate the message to the customer. For us, we were able to take advantage of our previous experience as web designers to execute these tasks. We created a wide array of promotional materials, point-of-sale posters, print ads, videos, trailers, as well as press kits. This media kit was a fun project for us. Inside an emergency case was a towel, a raincoat, t-shirts, stickers, gloves, even a disposable toilet, a pamphlet. This was all to get the media's attention. We designed everything that went into the case. It worked out as planned, and the media loved the kit, and it was the best business card exchange ever. And we also worked on the packaging design. For this design, the request from the sales and marketing team was to feature many animals and communicate that there's just lots going on in one shot. They also had specific animals picked out and had an idea for the composition. The design on the left is what it looked like based on their orders. In designing a package, we were told we wanted to make it pretty noisy and showy as possible, so it stood out and also communicated what the game was all about. That's how we got here. But I didn't think the design showed off the maximum potential appeal of Tokyo Jungle. So a day before the deadline, I decided to take all the animals except the Pomeranian. A deserted Tokyo, animals left behind. To communicate this setting and to stand out on the shelves, I knew the design needed and had to have this level of impact. As a result, the promotional videos, trailers, and package design were a hit in and outside of Japan, and we succeeded in communicating the appeal of Tokyo Jungle to many people around the world. By this time, our vision was solid, the concept was clear, and both Japan and Europe were on board. However, the title wasn't initially included or accepted in the lineup for North America. Why is the setting in Tokyo and not in the US? Why are we using animals as our main characters? We think it's a pretty niche idea. We don't think this will perform well outside of Japan. Only in Japan can you sell these types of games, and so on. These were the comments sent to us from SCE America, and so they initially decided to pass on this title. However, with the buzz in Japan and with SCE Japan Studios' support, they finally decided to release it in North America. Their decision came in at the very, very last minute. And so the game was released in Japan and Asia last June, followed by Europe and North America in October. Thanks to the fans and all the supporters out there, for a new IP with a very small-scale budget, the title performed very well. The critics' reviews in Europe and America are just right above average, I'd say, but the reception among the users are overwhelmingly positive. And it also seemed like they enjoyed the game in similar ways as the Japanese users. We were very much encouraged by these results. So, moving on to my next topic. A few years ago, there was a lot of talk about how it's game over for Japanese games. I would always get asked that question whenever I was interviewed by a member of the overseas press. There's an ongoing discussion about how it's over for Japanese games. How do you feel about that? I'll jump to my answer to the question. It's not over, and it's not getting close to being over. But I do think that our industry in Japan has been doing a bit of wandering around. Looking back at our past, Japanese culture and art were acclaimed by many outside of Japan, and the history has been carried over in the form of, let's say, manga, anime, and games. The Japanese sensibility is very unique. When artists in the West were drawing photorealistic style drawings and paintings in the 12th century, our ancestors were drawing these paintings. This is called Choju Jinbutsugiga, translated to caricatures of animals and humans. This scroll illustrates animals bathing in the river, playing and wrestling, a monkey thief running away from left to right, just like in an action game. And anthropomorphic frogs, rabbits, and monkeys telling a story. It wouldn't be a mistake to say that this illustration was the origin of manga and deformed art style. And Tokyo Jungle is also a piece that belongs to this unbroken line of Japanese culture. These types of paintings introduced a new sense of value in the West and were highly respected. Ukiyo-e had a significant influence on the Western art world. Whenever I have a chance to look at these precious pieces from Japan's past, I remind myself of the pride we have in our culture. In Japan and as a Japanese, we have our own uniqueness and charm in the same exact way you do in the West. At E3, I remember watching the press conference, and the action sequences were too bloody and brutal and violent for myself as a Japanese. But the crowd was very, very excited. We were watching the same footage, but the reaction around me was the opposite of what I was feeling inside. What I felt at that moment was, it's impossible for Japanese to make a game in this kind of direction. Rather than a technical challenge, it's a difference in sensibilities. There is a difference between what the Japanese and the Western audience feel and believe is fun and exciting. But that difference is what I view as the potential of Japanese games. I personally feel that it's not necessary for Japanese developers and companies to consciously think about targeting or marketing the game in the West when making their games. Focusing on making the kind of games we believe in fun and exciting will add to the uniqueness and originality of Japanese games, and eventually be accepted or introduce new values to the Western audience, is how I feel. I think that's been Japan's strength since the ancient times. For anyone who falls into the creator or craftsman profession, your own culture and roots are unavoidable factors. It's fate. Tokyo Jungle turned out as a first-party PlayStation 3 title, but it is also a game full of sensibilities unique to the Japanese, similar to what you saw in the caricatures of animals and humans painting I showed earlier. It brings me joy to know that games and works like these with unique values are released to the global audience and played and enjoyed by many around the world. We now have graduated from PlayStation Camp, and we are working with new partners and publishers on a new game. I feel that I must continue on with these challenges that I just mentioned in the future. I'm certain that our industry and market will continue to expand globally, and hopeful that we will continue to respect, accept, and nurture each other's values and aspirations. Thank you for listening today.
それでは最後に質疑応答に移らせていただきます。
So we have about 10 minutes, so we're going to open it up for Q&A. If anyone has any questions, there are 2 mics. And if you could just step up and ask the question.
Hello. I was wondering, are you still planning on making Medio at any point? Because Medio sounds completely amazing, and I think at least half the people in this room would love to play it.
.メテオがこれから公開される予定があるのかというような質問だと思いますけれども、今のところないです。ですがアイデアや練り込んだストーリーやシステム、そういったものは今でもとても愛着を持っていますので、どういう形でなるか分かりませんが、いつか、作ってみたいなという思いはあります。
Well, thank you very much for that. The short answer is, unfortunately, no, it's not in production, or we don't have plans to go into production anytime soon. However, the idea that we had and the story and the system, myself included, the guys around me who worked on this, we feel very close to the concept itself. So I'm not sure how or when or why or, in what form it will come in, but I'm sure that we will continue to be inspired by where it all started.
You get to make it someday.
You design the game, have you worried that the style is so unique that maybe only a few people love it, and that you cannot make enough money to support your team, and maybe you will fail? Thank you. Can you hear me?
I missed the first, the first part. Is the question that Tokyo Jungle is so unique that if it doesn't generate enough sales that you won't make enough money to support the team?
Yes, when he designed the game, has he worried that the style is so unique that maybe only a few people in the market like it, and he will not make enough money to support his team, and even
Okay, got it. Thank you.
.コンセプトが新しいゲームを作ることによって、パブリッシャーとかの評価が下がったりとか、売り上げが下がってしまうというような問題があるのではないかという質問だと思うんですが、今のところ、 安易に続編を作ったりですとか、同じような類似するシステムでゲームを作るっていうよりも、自分たちが面白いと思う新規のタイトルアイディアで勝負をかけた方が、勝算は高いのかなと思ってます。特に僕らのような、小規模の、独立系の開発会社にとってはそこだけがちょっと自分たちの価値というか、そういった認識でいますので、それの方針で今からも頑張っていきたいと思っています。
So for now, I think most people may feel the same way too, because we're so unique. The ideas are so unique and so out there. But we feel that in the end is actually our character. It's our best element for such a small development studio, that it's basically that becomes our best weapon. And in today's market, it's so easy to say, hey, let's make a sequel. But that's not exactly what my direction is when coming up with brand new ideas. I continuously want to come up with brand new ideas to differentiate ourselves from, say, another development company that will, roll in their resources to the next sequel and to a series and so forth. So we want to be different in that way, and so it becomes our best asset that we come up with these very different, unique ideas.
Tokyo Jungle doesn't sell well. Will you continue to make this kind of game, or maybe you will try some other things that are popular? Thank you.
東京ジャングルが売れなかった場合に、そういう続編ですとか、住宅の開発とかをする気はあったのかというような質問だと思うんですけれども、ちょっとわからないですね。そういうシチュエーションをまず想定したことがなかったっていうのと、おそらくやっぱり自分の作りたいものとか自分のアイデアを具現化するということにとてもやりがいを感じているので、もしそれでゲームで評価されないとなった場合は、きっと他のメディアですとか、そういったものにチャレンジをするような気がします。
To be completely honest, I am not able to answer that question in a way that I can't say that I've even thought about that. So to me, wanting to make our unique ideas, concepts that we come up with into a game form is sort of the single and sole direction that we have right now. And if we don't succeed at all with any of our game ideas, then I think at that point in time, it's for me to say maybe games is not the media that I need to translate my ideas into, and that I would maybe move on to a different type of medium to communicate my ideas.
And your team will make good in the future. Thank you.
まずありがとうございました。僕の日本語超まずくてすみませんが、最近ビットサミットあったんだけど、日本にインディーコミュニティないイメージあるんですね。なんでですか？どうやってそのコミュニティもちょっと強くなれるかな。
はい。これは
ごめん、僕自分で強く。はい。
So the question is that recently in Japan, in Kyoto, there was a event or conference called Bit Summit, which is basically the premise was to promote and spread the word about Japanese indie game development developers and sort of grow that community. And his question to Kataoka-san is why do you think that the Japanese indie game development community is so small right now, and how do you feel that, which way will it go and how will it grow in the future?
はい、ちょっと自分が学生だった頃、美術の学校にいたんですが、ゲームを作りたいと思う若い人はいっぱいいたんですが、やっぱその人たちの最終的な目標というのは大手のゲームの開発会社に入るということでした。でおそらく、今もそんなにその学生ですとか、若い方のゲーム開発を志す方の目標というのはそんなに変わってない気がします。でそこがちょっと一番大きい理由かなというふうに思いますね。その自分のアイデアを実現化して自分でゲームを作りたい。でそのために、ゲームの開発をできる会社を選んで入っていくっていうような流れがやはりあって、自分たちで独立して何かを作るですとか、例えば今だったら Steam ですとか、App Store ですとか Android マーケットとか、そういうゲームをプラットフォームがたくさんありますけれども、日本ではまだなかなかそれにチャレンジする若者が少ないということがインディーシーンが活性化しないちょっと一つの原因かなと思っています。
So going from my own experience, so I was an art school student, and around me, including myself, there were a lot of students who wanted to make games, but I think in general, a lot of the students, their final goal is to make games, meaning that they would go find a job at a already existing, large game development company or publisher, and those goals haven't really changed. Now is the time for, if you want to take a risk and challenge yourself, it is a great time to kind of go independent. But because of the majority of the students are not going in that kind of going indie route, it hasn't really helped the indie community grow. And it's sort of had this not restriction or borderline, but the framework just hasn't grown into something that maybe you guys would expect to see in Japan. So since now that there's, apps you can make by yourself or with just a few friends, and there are so many platforms out there that you can distribute your content, I would think that, we want to encourage ourselves to maybe go independent and take that challenge. Okay, so time is actually up, so we've been told that we will not be able to take any more questions. I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to close this session. Thank you, everyone.
はい、ありがとうございます。